me at Cello, Cello. You had me at Cello. You had me at Cello. Oh, you had me at Cello.
Everybody, welcome to another episode of Cello Chat. Today I have with me on the program Everardo Sanchez. Everardo, how are you doing today?
I'm doing super well. Thank you for inviting me to do this.
Excellent. Glad to hear that. And I like that. I like that enthusiasm, the super. All your website, for example, has such a verve and passion for music. And I mean, I think that's so helpful for our students to see how fired up we are about music every single day, right?
Yes, all the time. I'm always encouraging them to just be silly and do things that they
Yeah. The arts are no place for like apathy.
Of course, yeah.
All right. So your story, you didn't start out on the cello, but what was your musical journey to this point?
So I started off on flute. I was in sixth grade, and I
Okay.
had a really nurturing teacher, but I started off on flute, and my mom always had music going on at home. She was not a musician, but she just loved all sorts of music, and she would always just have all these CDs of classical music, and I would always listen to one that always had it was all the like famous violin concertos, and I really wanted to play violin because my sister played violin, and my sister was like, "No, you can't do that. You can't be like me." And I said, "Okay, fine." So I begged my dad. I was like, "Can I please have a cello for Christmas?" And he said, "Why? Like you're already doing music." And I didn't think it was gonna happen. And I was searching. We always did Christmas at my grandpa's house, and I was looking all over the house. Did they get me a cello? Like, did they sneak it away here? And
Can only hide it so many places.
yeah. So they finally, like, Christmas finally came. I accepted the fact that they didn't get me a cello, and then they brought it out, and I was like, you know. So I went to the same teacher. He was a saxophonist, but he taught, we general music for six through eight, and he also taught orchestra. And he said, "Well, just come to the orchestra class." And that's sort of how I started cello. And I was doing flute and cello at the same time. And then by eighth grade, I was only doing cello, and I started taking lessons in high school, my freshman year. Who was a student of Tanya Carey, which is what led me to study with Dr. Carey in Chicago, which is where I've stayed now for 10 years.
All right. All right. And you studied also with Stephen Balderston at some point.
Yes, so I did my bachelor's and artist diploma at Roosevelt with Dr. Carey. And while doing that, I did my Suzuki training, like full Suzuki training. And then I went to do my master's with Professor Balderston, and it was a really good time. I really enjoyed studying with him.
Terrific. So for one thing, I like just over the many episodes I've done, the number of people I've had on who have not necessarily started cello when they were, 3, 4, 2, something like that, and yet you can go online and hear you're playing, and it's really beautiful. Of course, it's more power to the people who do start out when they're super young, but some people watching this program, I know, have been have it in their head that, oh, well, maybe if you're getting really serious about cello somewhere in your teens, it's maybe too late. And I hope that these many examples help to disavow them of that idea. But another question I like to ask, what ideas, what things that you were taught by either Tanya Carey or Stephen Balderston kind of stay constantly at the forefront of your brain when you're playing or teaching?
Um, I sort of like to separate the two in like two different ways. Like Tanya Carey taught me all about the physical. Like she taught me just how to be free, to recognize patterns, and to just know where in your body that you are really needing to work on, whether it's and it's she's all about gestures, you know, and it's a really beautiful thing because she's always demonstrating in her lessons. And Steve taught me a lot about just like singing, about like musical line and just really, really beautiful music making. Outside of him being like an orchestral cellist, he was also like my chamber coach, and just the way that he conceives and thinks about like chamber music is just really, really beautiful. So it was really cool to have those two teachers like shape who I am.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, well, I've lost track of the number of people that I've had on this Cello Chat program who have at some point in time studied with Dr. Carey. She's a force of nature.
She is, and she's really, really supportive. I honestly owe so much to her. She really made me the teacher I am today.
Excellent, excellent. So another question, uh, ever since, I guess it's just been a couple years now, but it's wonderful in my mind that American String Teachers Association and the Suzuki Society of America are joining for their annual conference because, I mean, there's just so much room for cross-pollination there. But one of the things I want to ask, having studied the gone through the Suzuki method through book 10, and then also your teaching philosophy is very, very Suzuki influenced. So I'm wondering, what are some of the things that you see as the main benefits to your teaching for having studied the Suzuki method?
Um, I think first and foremost, just like the communal aspect of it. Like that's really something that I'm big on is just that it like music is a communal practice. So we have to like sort of treat it as such. So Suzuki has the triangle, the parent, the educator, and the student. And just following that and really embracing that, whether it's a parent or caregiver or, you know, whoever it might be, you involve them regardless of their knowledge. And I think that's what keeps a lot of parents away from their child's music education is I don't know anything about it, so I don't want to, you know, be there. Well, and it's I don't know. I have a group class where these parent I actually have the parent take my cello and they have to play it, and their kid teaches them, "Oh, this is how you this," and it's a really fun class, and the parents are like, you know, um, but Suzuki, I think in general just gives you a framework to work with. You know, like sometimes I hear a lot of teachers my age or younger, how do I start a child off? How do I do this? You know, what do I do when they're this little? And it's literally just playing games with them. You know, getting them to realize, oh, I can relax, or I don't need to squeeze, or you know, and it's just you know you have to be really really creative when you work with young ones like that. So and that creativity can you know be applied in so many other ways in your own teaching, you know, with older students, with yourself, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's nice. Now, along the lines of the community, can you tell me about the Pilsen Classical program?
Yeah, it started off during the pandemic. My really, really, really good friend, Ali Svitala, is a brilliant violinist. Um, just called me. She was studying at CIM, and she said, "Hey, her brother lives in Chicago," and she said, "Hey, I really don't want to go back to Texas. can I crash with you for a couple of weeks and I'll figure it out? I said, yeah, sure. So she came, and I have a really wonderful neighbor. Her name's Amelia DeRudder. She's a really amazing artist. She said, "Oh, you guys should put on a concert together and just, call it Pilsen Classical." And she's taught me a lot about, being, um, about just being business-like, like you can just have an idea, try and run with it, and if it doesn't work, you reshape it. And she was like, "Yeah, just call yourself Pilsen Classical, and we'll throw on a little concert in the backyard, and we can make it safe. Everyone has to wear a mask, and we can space the seats out." And we just played violoncello duets, and we said, "Oh, like this is kind of cool." And as things got somewhat safer, we started inviting people to our sight reading parties. And people really, really like that. Like they really like the barrier being torn down of, like
Yeah.
seeing musicians. And of course, these are not students, these are, adults. So you're hearing, musicians like rip through music and, sort of screaming things and, but you keep, trucking on, and they really, really enjoyed that. They like seeing that process of like, oh, classical music isn't so this,
Yeah.
So that's like part of our series is that we have people come and watch us, and they just talk to each other. It's a space for other artists to, outside of music, to collaborate with each other. We've had so many people like get murals done in our neighborhood of Pilsen. And that's sort of the spirit of Pilsen. Pilsen is like a very close-knit, familial type of neighborhood in Chicago. And I think by the time that this comes out, it's okay to say, but we won a grant for a very generous amount to start an actual series of a chamber series. So we are really excited to get our concerts off the ground.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It was a lot of work, but we really did it, and it was really cool to see all the other people who also were awarded this grant, because these are people who have Grammys and stuff. So we're like, ooh, believe that we belong there,
Yes.
But yeah, Pilsen is a neighborhood that really nurtured me, like while I've lived here, and I really believe in giving back. I also teach in like community programs that are here in the neighborhood, so it's kind of like full circle. It's you support me and I support you, and this is what I have to offer as a teacher and performer.
Excellent, excellent. So just briefly back to that point about, pardon me, the neighbor explaining about creating a business idea model, and then if it's not working, then you pivot. One of the things that comes to mind is over the years, hearing various professional musicians. I remember, for example, the Muir String Quartet in Boston a long time ago. One of the questions to them was something to the effect of, what do you think is one of the most underrated skills that you need to make it on your own? And they said business sense, business knowledge. So for the people watching this who are maybe a little bit think, oh, I don't have any business sense. Can you say what you learned and how you would recommend that they kind of explore how to get comfortable with the business side of things?
Ooh, I'm lucky. I'm really, really lucky because I had someone to be there. I don't know if you can find someone that can, but it wasn't that she's like, oh, I'm a business person. She just knows how to talk to people. I think that's something that people need to practice, especially with people having their phones and, iPads, is learn how to talk to people. I can walk through Pilsen with Amelia, and every minute there's someone, oh, hey, oh, I know her. She's talked to so many people. She lived here for over 20 years. So people really know her, but it's because she says hi, like, and she wants to know people's stories and all that stuff. Um, so I would just say learn how to talk to people. Learn how to just say hi, even if you're a little nervous, and what's your story? And um, I think as an artist, especially in music, we sort of have to learn how to imitate. So I've really, I don't want to say studied Amelia, but I've really, really watched her and how she talks to people. And you sort of have to just go through it like that. You just, oh, like she just goes up to me, oh, that's a really cool watch, you know, where'd you get it? And then they just start talking and you build this conversation of whatever, and then you kind of like sneak in, oh, this is what I do. And, know, whatever, But we've actually gotten a lot of interest because of little tiny interactions like that.
All right. That's interesting. I mean, that sounds to a certain extent like how people talk about developing social media connections, even, you know.
Yes.
So would you talk a little bit about the two main places that where you teach?
So I teach at Music Institute of Chicago, and I teach at the Merit School of Music. Um, at the Music Institute of Chicago, I am part of a really cool program that offers tuition free and instrument free or provided um, services to their students who are Black and Brown, or socioeconomically, uh, how do I say that? Uh,
Yeah,
they face challenges
right. Can't
financially,
afford it.
because taking lessons is not cheap, but it services the Evanston area, and it's a really, really cool program. It's my really, really awesome colleague Bianca um, is really has spearheaded it, and I've learned so much from her, especially when she's teaching young ones. I've learned so much from her, and I am really, really, really grateful for her. And then I also teach at Merit, and Merit is sort of um, they do a lot of the in Chicago stuff. So they have a lot of partner schools, especially with the public school system here in Chicago. Um, so that's how I was able to partner with one of the schools in Pilsen. And that's just been really, really awesome. And Merit is a really welcoming and just really kind place to teach. And I'm really grateful for the colleagues that are there.
Now, I think it was in your bio or teaching philosophy that I ran across, there was a statement to the effect that you teach focused, organized, and strategic approach to practicing. And
Yes.
this is something I'm very interested in. I mean, I'm sure you, as much as I have run across people who are clock watchers, like, oh, well, I was told to practice for 45 minutes, and by golly, when that clock gets 45, then I'm done, and I did my 45 minutes. And, you know, probably if they had their instrument in their hands for those 45 minutes or however long, that some amount of good was done. But when you compare that to certain people that just advance like crazy, and well, what are they doing? They're not just watching the clock. They're being very, very intentional about everything that they do during that time. So, can you talk a bit about how you teach your students focused, organized, and strategic practice?
Yeah, so from the very beginning, they come in, I have them, I'm really big on listening, I'm really big on singing. So for the youngest ones, the ones who are starting off at 3 or 4 years old, I have my little speaker, and it's just, playing the CD, they're unpacking, and as soon as they start their lesson, they have to start with, you know, cello lesson time is now, to the tune of Twinkle, and they sing along with the recording, so it gets them in this mode. and it builds a routine with them. So I first of all just getting routine, and the way I sort of structure it, or the way that my brain works, and how I try to help my students, is based off of three things. It's just warm-ups, review, and then going over new material. It's really, really basic. I try to simplify it as much as I can. So from the beginning, they get into their routine, they're singing, their exercise, their warm-ups, whether it's, doing spider fingers or whatever, gets them into this warm-up, and I spend about 10 minutes doing that. For the youngest ones, I recommend doing 15 minutes or 10 minutes and split it up in that 3 sections. That warm up, you can warm up for 5 minutes, you can warm up for, do review, doing singing, doing open string work, or whatever they're working on, and then getting into their new material, whatever the last thing that we ended the lesson with is what I want them to work on. So understanding, just like getting a routine going is like the first thing for me. So when my students get older and more advanced, I structure it within an hour, and it's 20 minutes on scales and warm-ups and just getting your body ready to play cello. Then it's the review things that are challenging you, not things that or that feel easy. And then it's anything new, whether it's a new section in music, a new 10 measures in your orchestra excerpts, or whatever it might be, or an orchestra excerpt you've never played. I don't know. But that's how I structure it, and you can time it and you can be kind of strict with it, but I think just having it based like that, and it depends person to person.
All right. That loop of feedback that they play for you, you listen, you react, and then you point out things that they could do better, and then training the student to do that same feedback loop.
Yeah, exactly.
In their practice time. Excellent. All right. Well, Everardo, there's still quite a bit left of 2025. Upcoming performances or projects?
Mostly finishing out my teaching year. PILSEN Classical will be starting. We're gonna figure out how we get our grant running and start planning out concerts for the rest of 2025 and into 2026. And then I'll be in Italy for a month for a summer music program, Trentino Music Festival.
Nice.
So I'll be gone all of July to August. And then just straight back into chamber music and teaching in August when I get back. So that's what I have planned for myself, but I'm really excited. I've never been to Europe, so.
All right. Well, best of luck. That sounds like, I know that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be All right. Well, thanks for your time, Everardo. This has been a lot of fun, and I hope our paths cross in person one of these days, no further apart than we are.
Yes, I hope so too. It was really nice to meet you.
All right. Pleasure's mine. And to all of you out there, happy practicing all week, and we'll meet back the same time next week. Take care.
You had me at Cello, you had me at Cello.